Hi, everyone. Happy Disability Pride Month. My name is Nika Meyering. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a white man with blonde hair, dark glasses, black headphones, wearing a blue shirt, seated in front of a purple background. I'm joined today, and I'm honored to be joined today by my friend Victoria Wheeler. Victoria, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Victoria Wheeler. For an image description, I'm new at this, so bear with me. I am seated. I use a wheelchair. I have blonde hair, blue eyes, purple headphones, and teal glasses.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and get started. Victoria, what does disability pride mean to you?
I was thinking over this last night in preparation for this little interview, and I'm learning that I don't know, I'm still figuring out the answer. I'm learning that I'm still learning. But at this point in time, it means accepting and embracing both what my body and brain can do and what they can't do.
Valid. I'm reminded of a poem by a late disabled poet, and the poem is called You Get Proud by Practicing. So we always claim progress rather than perfection. I love that you mentioned that you have more to learn and that you're learning all the things that you don't already know. Absolutely.
Lots to learn and lots to unlearn as well.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes we absorb things that ableds might teach us or that the world at large might teach us that just doesn't hold true for disabled individuals. What is one thing that you want non-disabled people to know about disability life?
Especially within the past year, what resonates most with me is that sometimes being disabled is a full-time job. And I go over this in therapy a lot. My worth is not determined by my productivity. My worth is I exist, I'm human. Yes, I have a disability. Yes, I might not be able to work a full-time job, but that doesn't make me less deserving of compassion from other people, from myself. I've had family members and even friends just straight up asking, knowing that I don't have a job and I'm learning to shed the shame that comes with oh, I'm unemployed. I'm just it's a fact. Something to be ashamed of. I'm unemployed. They're what do you do all day? And I'm oh, I take care of myself. It takes a lot more time and energy than you might realize.
That's true. One thing that I try to emphasize in the disability community is that just because our work doesn't generate income or revenue doesn't make it less worthy, right? So making medical appointments is work, keeping medical appointments is work, doing all these annoying self-care things like eating regularly is work.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation, dealing with physical symptoms, being disabled is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for your answer.
The irony is that I hear this from mostly people who are not doing a great job at taking care of themselves.
Okay.
Even though they have a job outside that generates income, I'm but are you taking care of yourself?
Mm-hmm. Do you get the sense that these people are sacrificing their well-being for their job?
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
That's rough.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to live in a disabled body sometimes, especially when we get these notices that if we're not making money, we're not as valuable, or that even if we are making money, we still need to neglect our personal care, our personal connections for the sake of the almighty dollar. That's weird, man. What are some lessons that being disabled has taught you?
I have this in my notes. I came prepared. Oh, the first thing I thought of, and I don't always like this question. I'm going to answer it indirectly. I don't always like this question because a lot of times, like, I think that like having a disability, being disabled is can be inherently traumatic.
Okay.
And there's that like, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but my experience. Um, there's that saying that like, oh, like your trauma makes you stronger. It's there to keep you safe. No, sometimes it exists and it kind of sucks, and you're stronger in spite of it. But that aside, um, like it's just as much as my brain doesn't like to admit this, like it's taught me like that there are like so many different ways of like doing things, and that like I'm so much more adaptable than I like to think that I am, or that my brain will tell me that I am. Like, I don't know, just there's not always one way or like the right way. There's like the right way for so many people. Yeah. Let's see, what else did I say? Oh yeah, like the way that you do things might look different from like the way that I do things, and both are valid and both are like it's not a way that like maybe an able-bodied person would do it, and they're like, oh, that's not the typical or normal way, but it's we're still getting things done.
Absolutely. I mean, if the end result is the same, then the method you took to achieve said result isn't as important.
Right.
I hear you when you talk about not wanting to be like a Debbie Downer, but I don't know. I would encourage you to think about becoming more comfortable with talking about the negative aspects of disability experience. Dealing with ableism is not
Yeah.
always a rosy thing, and it's
Yeah.
fine to not shy away from that.
I'm really trying to do that, but at this moment, like there are only like honestly a handful of people that I'm really comfortable being like, for lack of better words, like a negative Nancy with
Okay.
when it comes to like being disabled.
Mhm.
Um, like the DLC group is among them, and then my boyfriend, and not even my parents really. Like that's just happening like over time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I've noticed as I've gotten older is that even though I relied on my parents probably more than most kids because of my disability, and although my mom did take a really proactive role in my disability support and care early on, as I've achieved and maintained disabled independence and as I've made my own way, my frame of reference is very different than theirs. So I've had to, unfortunately, have more boundaries in place with them than I did when I was younger.
yeah,
And making that transition has brought some pain points, I'll be honest.
right. I don't know your experience, but I have been historically, and I'm just now like really learning what it means to like up like set boundaries and like maintain them and uphold them, even when you don't want, like if it's with people that you haven't had boundaries with before.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
It's a thing that gets better with practice, I'm told.
yeah,
Or
it's,
like a muscle, it gets better when you train it.
yeah.
We'll see how it goes, though. What are some things that you've had to unlearn as a result of being disabled?
Internalized ableism.
Okay, that was a very succinct answer.
Yeah, because
What
that's
does what does internalized ableism look like for you? How does it show up?
for me. It um mostly nowadays, and like in the past, like that little voice is like, oh, you're not trying hard enough.
Okay.
You're not trying hard enough. You're not doing enough. Like you could be doing better if you just try. Like, there's that saying, you can do whatever you put your mind to. I'm also grown to hate that saying because it's just untrue for a lot of people. And no, like I do in fact have limitations. Like there are ways that I can figure out how to do things and work around. But I also have to have in mind, oh, these are my limits and I can't always do these things and I shouldn't be made to feel ashamed because I can't do them. And like I can't do everything myself and I need to ask for help and I might need more help than the average person and that's okay.
Absolutely. Interdependence is completely okay. I always tend to think that humans are like naturally social animals. Like we naturally seek out our own communities for support and encouragement and validation. So figuring out how our interdependence and how our place in community interacts with our independence and our own personal viewpoints and preferences is something that takes a whole lifetime to figure out and fine tune.
Like
Victoria,
I have to get, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. This is our interview with you.
Okay. I have to like get rid of the mindset, like, oh, I'm like lazy or less
Mhm.
than asking for help like that. That's the main thing like that I have to unlearn.
Yeah, it's been a real journey. One thing that has popped up in my own head lately is like this negative voice in the back of my brain saying, well, good enough is just not good enough. It's
Every day.
every day, man. It's weird because we have basically two spheres. We have work and school, and school tends to ask us, how well did you do the job? And work just tends to ask us, did you do the job?
Right.
So good enough might be good enough in some regards and not good enough in others.
Right.
Also, as a child, I would always get the message that you had to overachieve and overperform just to have a place in the world, right?
Right.
Work twice as hard to get half as far, that old saying.
To compensate for your disability.
Right, to compensate for your disability. And now that I actually have managed to achieve at a high level and consistently achieve at a high level, I'm in a world where we're getting to know the value of self-care and relaxation. So the emotion that brings up for me is like a sense of betrayal and confusion. Like, hold on. I worked my whole life to adhere to these sets of standards. What do you mean that it's okay to, relax?
Like you lied to me.
Yes, like those bastards lied to me. Victoria, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank
I
you for
know,
that.
of course, of course. Are there any last nuggets of wisdom or anything else you want to say?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, that's valid. Where can people find you online?
I have a Facebook and an Instagram. Facebook is Victoria Wheeler. Instagram is the blank Wheeler. Those are the networks that I'm most active on.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
You too. See you later.